At exactly 10 p.m., a sharp ringtone echoed through the living room. I looked up from my documents and glanced toward the bathroom. Harvey was still in the shower. We never kept secrets from each other, checking each other's phones was normal for us. Besides, our wedding was in 2 days. There was no reason to hesitate. Thinking nothing of it, I picked up Harvey's phone. The screen displayed an unfamiliar number, and the ringing continued. As soon as I answered, heavy metal music blasted through the speaker, making me frown. Probably a wrong number. I was just about to hang up when a teary female voice stopped me. "Harvey, I regret it. You're only marrying Lilith to get back at me, but you'll just end up hurting both of us. Ask me to marry you one more time, okay? This time, I'll say yes." As soon as she finished speaking, the noise on the other end faded, leaving an eerie silence. Unlike the person on the other end, holding her breath anxiously, I only found the situation absurd. Harvey's supposed ex-girlfriend, calling the night before his wedding, hoping to rekindle an old flame? The audacity. The sheer lack of self-awareness. Even more ridiculous was the fact that Harvey once told me he had never been in love. I gripped the phone, my gaze landing on the document in front of me, but the words blurred together. Who was that? Harvey walked out, a towel wrapped around his waist, drying his damp hair with one hand. I looked at him steadily, then, without a word, switched on the speakerphone under his puzzled gaze. "Harvey, I'm at XX Club. I drugged myself. If you don't come in 30 minutes, I'll find someone else to take care of it." Harvey's hand froze mid-motion, his eyes flickering with panic. In the next second, he snatched the phone from me and hung up. I watched coldly, taking in his flustered reaction. It's probably just Johan and the guys messing around, trying to rush me. Don't mind her. From now on, don't pick up unknown numbers. Within seconds, Harvey regained his composure. You should get some rest. It's my last night as a bachelor, they'll probably keep me up all night. With that, he headed to the walk-in closet. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Harvey was known for his meticulousness. His outfits were always coordinated, down to the cufflinks and brooches. Every strand of hair had its designated place. But right now, he didn't even glance at what he was grabbing, just threw on 2 completely mismatched pieces. If you're going to lie, at least make an effort. Do you take me for an idiot? Johan's in the hospital with a broken leg, his cast is all over his Instagram. And I don't recall hearing anything about a bachelor party. Now, one suspicious phone call later, you're suddenly running off to see your drugged-up ex? I crossed my arms tighter, my voice ice-cold. Harvey stiffened, his expression unnatural. After a long pause, he spoke stiffly. I'll explain when I get back. I can't let her do this to herself, at least not because of me. I'll take her to the hospital and be right back. It won't affect the wedding tomorrow. He started to walk past me, but I grabbed his arm, my gaze sharp. If you dare go, you won't be walking anywhere after. We were at a standoff when his phone rang again. This time, it was a staff member from the club. Hello, is this Mr. Harvey? Your friend. No, don't take that off. Harvey's breath hitched. He wrenched his arm free and snapped, stop being unreasonable. The sudden force caught me off guard, and I stumbled, falling to the floor. A sharp sting ran up my arm, scraped raw, blood welling at the surface. I sucked in a breath through gritted teeth. Harvey. He hesitated, looking like he wanted to help me up. But then his phone buzzed again, vibrating urgently in his pocket. In the end, he turned away, grabbing his keys at the door. The first aid kit is in the left cabinet. Take care of it, I'll be back soon. Harvey left without a second thought. I looked down at my bleeding arm, my eyes turning ice cold. Then, I picked up my phone and made a call. Lewis, clear your schedule the day after tomorrow. We're getting married. There was a long silence on the other end before Lewis cursed. Stay put. I'll handle the wedding. At a red light, Lewis turned to look at me for the 8th time. I finally lost my patience and glared at him. If you've got something to say, say it. Stop acting like a prissy little princess. Lewis clicked his tongue. So rude. Then, in a casual tone, he asked, by the way, which hospital do you want to go to? After agreeing to marry me over the phone, Lewis had hung up immediately. 30 minutes later, he was downstairs, waiting. The first thing he did when he saw me was glance at my injured arm. His brows knitted briefly, but he quickly relaxed and slipped back into his usual lazy demeanor. I expected him to interrogate me, to demand the full story behind this sudden groom swap. I even braced myself for his usual sarcasm. But instead, he took a different route entirely. I was momentarily speechless. Then, he smirked. "How about we go to Harvey's hospital? While they still think you're their future boss's wife, might as well take advantage." The light turned green, and the car merged into traffic. I watched the cityscape blur past and licked my dry lips. Then, I said, "Save me a front page slot. I'm going live." Lewis steered the car with one hand, lazily fishing out a bottle of milk with the other. Tossing it into my lap, he asked nonchalantly, "Announcing our love?" I smirked, my voice cold as ice. "No. Catching a cheater." The wound was bandaged quickly. By the time we left the hospital, it was nearly dawn. Without wasting a second, Lewis drove us straight to XX Club, afraid I might change my mind. And thanks to his status as the owner, finding Harvey's room number was effortless. I started my live stream and followed Lewis into the elevator. The moment the door opened, the scene inside was nauseatingly familiar. Harvey's breathing was ragged. "Naomi, stop. I'm taking you to the hospital." So that was her name. Naomi. I thought I was calm, but my trembling fingers betrayed me. Lewis reached out, steadying my phone as if shielding me. On screen, Naomi swayed against Harvey, gasping out a laugh. "I knew you'd come. When I heard you were getting married, I lost my mind. I dropped everything and flew back. You're marrying Lilith because she reminds you of me, her lips, her love for painting, her passion for musicals." Naomi chuckled smugly. "Admit it. You've always loved me. And I love you too." Harvey said nothing. Instead, he pulled her against the wall and kissed her. Darkness suddenly engulfed my vision. Lewis leaned close, whispering, "Don't look. It's disgusting." He shut off the stream, then gently led me out. Under the bright hallway lights, his face was filled with righteous fury. Muttering curses under his breath, he was angrier than I was. I couldn't help but laugh. At the same time, warmth spread in my chest. I patted his shoulder. Everyone in their social circle knew that whenever Lewis and Harvey met, a fight was inevitable. No one knew why. All they knew was that Harvey had always been the golden child in everyone's eyes. One day, Harvey would get Lewis in trouble with his family. The next day, Lewis would personally beat him up in retaliation. So when Harvey showed up at the wedding as the groom, the entire venue fell into stunned silence. Do I need to personally cue the next step? Lewis raised an eyebrow, smirking as he looked at the host. Let's welcome the bride." I slipped the ring onto Lewis's finger. Just as it was his turn, the banquet hall doors swung open. I thought it was Harvey, but instead, it was Johann, leaning on a cane. Lewis slid the ring onto my finger at lightning speed. I had no choice but to shift my gaze from the doorway, only to meet a pair of amused eyes. Isn't this supposed to be your wedding with Harvey?" After the ceremony, Johann came up to me, still visibly shocked. "Your friend Harvey was too busy to marry me. For all I know, he's still in bed with his old lover right now." I smiled, but there was no warmth in my eyes. "Impossible." Johann instinctively denied it. "Everyone knows you're the one he cares about the most. Last year, when you two were kidnapped, he gave up his chance to escape so you could get away. He's had feelings for you for a long time. When you studied abroad in college, he always found excuses to travel just to see you. He even worried you wouldn't like the food there, so he learned how to cook. And for all these years, he's only ever cooked for you." I wasn't in the mood for nostalgia, so I cut Johann off. "He gave me the chance to escape? That's because he broke his leg, he had no choice but to let me run for help. Those business trips? That's because Naomi just happened to be in the same country. I was just an afterthought. I only found out about this yesterday. As for his so-called cooking skills, he barely steps into the kitchen 10 times a year. Who was he really doing it for? I did plenty of foolish things for him too. Don't try to guilt-trip me. Since childhood, I had been Harvey's shadow. In middle school, I skipped classes for him and threatened any girl who got too close to him. I was so obsessed with him that my grades suffered. My family couldn't stand it anymore and sent me abroad. I didn't return until college. I didn't want to say more, so I played the security footage from last night on the projector. From the moment the door swung open to the unmistakable sounds of intimacy, Johann fell silent and left awkwardly. Naomi's existence was like a sharp claw, tearing apart Harvey's perfect facade. She made me see the rot beneath the surface. That night, fresh out of the shower, I lay on my bed in a silk nightgown, scrolling through messages from my best friend. You have no idea how satisfying it is, everyone online is tearing Harvey apart. His stock price just tanked. But why did you marry Lewis? I can't believe he agreed to help you. Are you guys sleeping together? I typed back. They're sworn enemies. Anything that pisses off Harvey, Lewis would love to do. It's just an act. But before I could send it, a hand reached over my head and snatched my phone away. I turned my head, only to find Lewis, stark naked, looming over me. He scrolled through my phone lazily before tossing it aside. Then, he lowered his gaze to meet mine, his brow arching slightly. From my angle, I could see his sharp jawline, the curve of his throat, the sculpted muscles of his chest and abs. And further down. I quickly averted my eyes. Clearing my throat, I forced myself to sound calm. Water dripped on me. But as I moved to push him away, the silk of my nightgown slid down, revealing my bare shoulder and a glimpse of my chest. Lewis's eyes darkened instantly. He grabbed my wrists and pinned them above my head. Who said I was just acting? Be good and bear with it. I was like a small boat caught in a storm, tossed around by the waves. By the time it was over, I had passed out from exhaustion. The next morning, I was barely conscious when my phone rang. Somewhere in the haze, I heard Harvey's furious roar over the line. You dare touch Lilith? The day after the wedding, I was shaken awake. Opening my eyes, I was met with an enlarged face inches from mine. Startled, I jerked back, only to wince in pain at the soreness from last night. Don't move. Let me massage it. The bedroom was silent. I lay face down on the bed, my face buried in the pillow. Lewis didn't say anything either, his hands pressing down just right. Drowsiness crept over me. Baby, don't fall asleep yet. We've got something urgent to do. His husky voice murmured against my ear, sending shivers down my spine. And then, he bit my earlobe. Memories of last night came rushing back. Snapping out of it, I gritted my teeth. Let go. And don't call me that. Got it, sweetheart. Lewis changed his words without missing a beat, so smoothly that I suspected he had called me baby on purpose just to mess with me. A sudden thought hit me. Aren't you supposed to be at work? Dressed in a crisp white shirt and tailored black trousers, Lewis looked like he had just stepped out of a fashion ad. He glanced at me. Did you forget what you promised me last night? Last night, overwhelmed by his relentless assault, I had surrendered and signed an unfair treaty. Get up and get dressed. We're registering our marriage today. Right. Last night, Lewis had forced me to agree to get legally married. From the very beginning, I had told him this wedding was just for show. There was no need to make it official. Lewis had agreed so easily back then. Sitting in the car, I suddenly felt like prey that had willingly walked into the hunter's carefully laid trap. Doubt, shock, and unease swirled inside me as I turned to Lewis. You're not actually in love with me, are you? Yeah, he said, completely unfazed. You just figured that out? For a second, I was stunned. But then I reminded myself who Lewis really was. He was the illegitimate son no one cared about, only acknowledged by his father's family when he was in high school. Everyone assumed he'd be cast aside with a small sum of money the moment he turned 18. But on the day he became an adult, he took full control of the entire family fortune. Someone like him. I told myself not to overthink it. His words meant nothing. Lewis went to park the car. I waited for him at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. The scorching sun made the already stifling weather even more unbearable, and Harvey's arrival only fueled my irritation. He looked haggard. Even with foundation on, the dark circles under his eyes were still obvious. Naomi really did a number on him. When Harvey saw me, his once lifeless eyes lit up, like a pool of fresh water had been injected into them, reviving him. I sneered inwardly and turned to walk away, wanting to avoid this bad omen. But the footsteps behind me grew closer. I cursed my choice of high heels today, which made it impossible to escape before Harvey caught up. He grabbed my wrist and pleaded in a low voice. "Lilith, I know I was terribly wrong. If I kneel down and beg you right now, will you forgive me?" Harvey looked at me hopefully. "Then kneel," I said. His grip was firm, and knowing I couldn't break free, I simply went along with it and nodded. I agreed so readily that Harvey was momentarily stunned. I lifted my chin. "Go on, kneel." Harvey gazed at me, eyes brimming with deep emotions. "Lilith, if I kneel, will you truly forgive me? If you're gonna do it quickly. Don't drag it out. You're not expecting me to hesitate, are you?" My patience ran out. I forcefully pried his fingers off my wrist, my face full of disgust. "Trash belongs in the trash can. Don't come out and pollute the environment." Harvey always liked women who were gentle and obedient. To please him, I had spent years playing that role. Looking back now, what a joke. The more I struggled, the tighter he held on. He still thought he could subdue me like before, using a forceful hug to quiet me down. Just as he made a move, Lewis rushed back and landed a punch that sent him sprawling. His face was stormy with rage, like a dragon whose treasure had been stolen. "You slimy toad! You dare touch my wife with your filthy hands? A real man." I barely held back the cheer that threatened to escape my throat. Lewis moved too fast. Harvey bit down on the inside of his cheek where he had been punched, his eyes dark and full of hatred as he glared at Lewis. "Baby, take care of this." Lewis still had the documents in hand. He passed them to me, not a single crease on the papers. In the blink of an eye, the two of them clashed like wild beasts, wrestling each other to the ground. By the time Naomi arrived, Harvey's face was bruised. Her heart ached instantly, and she turned on me with reproach. "Lilith, are you happy now, seeing two outstanding men fighting over you? Does this satisfy your vanity? Harvey was forced to be with you because of your relentless clinging. He never dared to pursue his true love and suffered every single day. Now that he's finally free, why won't you let him go? Do you really hate seeing him happy that much?" Naomi was wearing a white dress today, complementing her delicate, innocent face. She looked like a fragile yet resilient little flower. I could hear the murmurs around me. I also caught the slight smirk Naomi tried to hide. Her eyes were full of disappointment, as if she truly couldn't believe me. Now I was intrigued. Where did Naomi get the audacity to lecture me like this? "You're really good at twisting the truth, aren't you? You took my family's sponsorship money for your education, then slept with my fiancé right before my wedding. And now, you dare to slander me in public? You've got some nerve. I sincerely hope all your dreams come true. Every year, my family donates a significant amount to charity. Starting from high school, my mother decided to sponsor one extra person. She once told me that this girl and I should have a lot in common since we shared similar interests. Little did I know that girl was Naomi. Looking back now, whether it was painting or watching musicals, she had deliberately mirrored my hobbies. But I had studied abroad since high school, so how did she even know about them? "Lilith, I know you look down on people like us who come from nothing. You've been spoiled by flattery and can't handle a little harsh truth. But you're being too cruel. How could you slander me like that?" Naomi's defiant tone snapped me back to the moment. I looked at her carefully, her eyes were brimming with unshed tears. "The sponsorship was meant to help you get an education, not to train you to be a mistress and steal what doesn't belong to you." I held back Lewis, who was itching for a fight, and reached up to touch the bruise at the corner of his mouth. "We can't take pictures today. Let's go home." As we walked past Harvey, he still refused to give up. His voice was hoarse, trembling slightly, full of pitiful desperation. "Lilith, I'm hurt. It really hurts." In the past, I would have rushed to his side without hesitation. Just like last New Year's Eve, when he got drunk and hit his head on the table. I had hurriedly fetched the first aid kit, tending to his wound while scolding him. "You already have a lower pain tolerance than most people, yet you're still so careless. Serves you right." Outside, the city lights sparkled. Inside, it was just the two of us, warm and intimate. I had asked him gently, "Does it hurt?" "It does." Harvey, usually silent, had smiled at me then, his voice low and soft as he played the victim. He always knew how to make me go soft. But things were different now. "Harvey, you're pathetic. Still trying to act pitiful? Didn't you hear your little lover say I was bullying you? You just slept with her last night, and now you can't even protect her?" Lewis chuckled and added, "Of course not. Something handed over for free will never be as treasured as something hard-earned." Seeing me unmoved, Harvey clenched his jaw and turned his attack on Lewis. "Lewis, do you dare tell Lilith how you got your family fortune? Do you dare let her know how ruthless you are? That you even used your own mother for wealth? That you—" Slap. I struck him across the face. The moment my palm landed, a wave of satisfaction washed over me, as if all my pent-up frustration had found an outlet. Harvey looked at me in utter disbelief. I hadn't thought much when I raised my hand. I just knew I couldn't let him keep talking. I glanced at Lewis, his face pale, as if he had been dragged into some dark abyss. I grabbed his hand and pulled him away quickly. As for Harvey's words, who cared? The car ride was silent. I wanted to pull Lewis out of his thoughts, but I realized I didn't know much about him. I had only returned for university and spent all my time chasing after Harvey. Lewis and I barely had any interactions, just brief encounters at school or polite nods at social events. "Want a drink? I'll join you." "Sorry." We spoke at the same time. At a red light, he turned to look at me and smiled faintly. "I had planned to bring you home to rest after our marriage registration. Now, I think I should have just let you sleep." I'll take you home to rest." Since Lewis was acting as if nothing had happened, I wasn't going to push it either. After all, our relationship was purely transactional. Lewis returned late that night. He opened the door and saw me still awake, a little surprised. "Waiting for me?" I rolled my eyes, saved my document, and shut my laptop. He was damp from a shower, his hair slightly wet. A faint mix of alcohol and tobacco lingered around him. I pointed at him. "You stink. You're not sleeping in my bed tonight." He leaned against the doorframe and chuckled. "All right. I just came to inform you. I have to leave for a business trip. About a week." Lewis was away on a business trip, but my life remained unchanged. The only annoying thing was Harvey. Something must have gotten into him. Instead of handling his company, he spent his days waiting downstairs for me. That day, as usual, I left the office and stepped out of the parking garage elevator. Suddenly, someone grabbed my hand, startling me. "It's me, Lilith." Harvey's gaze swept over me greedily from head to toe. "What the hell do you want?" I snapped. If I ever had any lingering romantic illusions about him, they were long gone. These days, I felt nothing but the urge to grab a knife. If Harvey showed up, I'd slash him on the spot. "Lilith, I know you and Lewis are just putting on an act, to piss me off, to get back at me." He took a step closer. "Let's both take a step back. Forget about the cheating, and get back together, okay?" I looked at him, completely dumbfounded by his shamelessness. "Let's get one thing straight, the only one who cheated was you. And Lewis is my husband. Sleeping together is perfectly normal." All right, don't get mad." Harvey chuckled indulgently, looking at me as if he were soothing a tantrum. "I'm here today mainly to tell you, Lewis's company is in trouble. His cash flow just got cut off. You should be careful not to get used by him." This time, Harvey didn't linger. He left as soon as he finished talking. I sat in my car for a long time, contemplating his words. Lewis had indeed left in a hurry that night. He didn't even have time to pack properly. When he left, I overheard him on the phone, saying, "Hold him down." His family had ties to both the underworld and legitimate business in the past. In recent years, they had cleaned up their public image, but behind the scenes? Who knew? Thinking too much made my head ache. After several all-nighters negotiating a deal, I had finally reached an agreement with an overseas client. Only the contract signing remained. After some thought, I had my assistant swap out the business trip personnel. I would go instead. Avoidance may be cowardly, but it works. I spent the next few days abroad, having the time of my life. Lewis texted me, saying he had postponed his return home, but I ignored it. Even when I landed back at the airport, I was still reluctant for the trip to end. My assistant had returned ahead of me and arranged for a car to pick me up. It wasn't until I got in that I realized something was off. Pull over. I need to buy something. We were approaching a fork, one road led to the suburbs, the other to the company. There was a small convenience store by the roadside. The driver ignored me. Please sit tight. I caught his eyes in the rearview mirror. He was wearing a mask, but his gaze held a subtle warning. A chill ran down my spine. I sat quietly. A kidnapping. Resisting head-on wasn't a smart move. Was I the target, or was I being used against Lewis? After all, our wedding was a high-profile event. And in business, making enemies was inevitable. My thoughts ground to a halt the moment I saw Naomi. A strange mix of frustration and disbelief filled me. I looked into you, I said, bound to a pillar. You're talented at painting. Your mentor thinks highly of you. You have a bright future ahead. Is it really worth ruining your life for a man? But a woman in love doesn't think rationally. Naomi pressed a blade to my face. You wouldn't understand, she said. You grew up in a loving family, pampered like a princess. You attended an elite school with the best resources. And me? I had to rely on your leftovers. You shine so brightly. She raised her hand to my face, forcing my eyes open. See these rough hands? Can you believe they belong to a young woman? Born in hardship, raised in misery, that's me. When I was beaten half to death, Harvey saved me. In that moment, he was like a beacon of light. Such a privileged man, yet he didn't despise my filth. He cleaned my wounds so gently and asked if it hurt. From that moment on, I swore I would become the woman standing beside him. For a second, I wasn't sure whether to pity her or despise her. I could already guess what happened next. Naomi got into school with excellent grades, learned that Harvey and I had grown up together and were deeply connected. She imitated me to catch his attention, gradually revealing her true self once she had him hooked. Until, eventually, she had him entirely under her control. I suddenly understood. You have this much skill, why not use it for something better? Naomi scoffed. Men don't like strong women. But you, she seethed, you're the most despicable of all. Her jaw clenched, voice filled with hatred. Harvey ran away from your wedding. You've slept with another man. You barely acknowledge him. But why does he keep coming back to you? What kind of witchcraft did you use? Because he's pathetic, I said without hesitation. I thought Naomi would argue, she loved Harvey so much. Instead, she froze. Then, she burst into laughter. She laughed so hard that tears streamed down her face. You're right. He is pathetic. But I still can't accept it. So I prepared a little game. A bad feeling crept over me as I saw the eerie smile on her lips. She pulled out a remote control and pressed a button. The wooden planks beneath me shattered, revealing what lay beneath. We were in a warehouse built over the sea. One more press of that button, and I'd drop straight into the waves, hands tied, with no chance of survival. I want to see, between you and me, who Harvey will choose. Naomi had lost her mind. As she walked toward me, the fragile wooden floor groaned under the weight. In that moment, I genuinely wanted to kill Harvey. Screw his reckless flirting. Screw this twisted life or death game. Screw this entire psychodrama. I could only hope my assistant had realized something was wrong and called the police. Time ticked by. I took deep breaths to stay calm. Naomi, let me go, and I promise, I'll stay far away from Harvey. I can even make sure you become his wife. You see? You're still looking down on me. Naomi sneered. Her laughter echoed in the empty warehouse, sending chills down my spine. If Harvey chooses me, then you die. If he chooses you, then I'll take you down with me. I stared at her. You're insane. Suddenly, there was a burst of hurried and messy footsteps at the door. Hope flared in my eyes as I fixed my gaze on the first person to step in. The warehouse doors swung wide open, it was Harvey. My hope was instantly extinguished. Lilith. My emotions were on a roller coaster, surging higher than they ever had before. Lewis's voice at this moment was nothing short of heavenly music to my ears. "Lewis." I stared at him, eyes gleaming. The moment Lewis stepped in, Naomi pressed a knife against my neck, her voice turning hysterical. Because standing behind Lewis were more than a dozen bodyguards. "Tell them to leave. Make them leave. If you so much as touch her, I swear, even after you're dead, your body won't rest in peace." Harvey frowned deeply and took a step forward. "Naomi, let Lilith go. I'll go with you and turn myself in." I wanted nothing more than to shove Harvey's head straight into the ocean. Did he think Naomi hadn't been pushed to the edge enough already? Why did I have to suffer the consequences of his stupidity? Sure enough, Naomi's grip on the knife tightened. I was forced to tilt my head back, sharp pain shooting to my brain. Lewis's eyes turned red in an instant. In one swift motion, he kicked the driver beside him. The burly man, well over 6 feet tall, crumpled to the ground. It was so brutal I could actually see the sweat breaking out on his forehead, almost instantly. Naomi's face turned ashen. "Lewis, no matter what, I was the middleman between you and Lilith. You're just going to discard me after using me? You think you're worthy?" Lewis shot me a reassuring glance before turning back to Naomi, his gaze as cold as death. "What do you mean? Harvey, playing dumb at this point is just embarrassing. Take him down." Lewis's bodyguards had already positioned themselves. At his command, they moved. Harvey didn't even have a chance to struggle. You never expected that one reckless night would dig up your family's years of dirty secrets. So you embezzled funds, trying to cut off my financial resources. 1. To bring me down. 2. To win back Lilith, using her to plug the hole in your family's sinking ship. Lewis pressed the sharp tip of his polished leather shoe against Harvey's chin, a humiliating stance. "You didn't expect Lilith to be so resolute, so you had Naomi kidnap her, planning to swoop in and play the hero. With a life-saving debt hanging over her, even if you couldn't control her, at least you'd have your own safety net. Am I wrong?" Lewis towered over Harvey, his voice laced with cold indifference. His words struck me like a hammer, clearing the fog in my mind. Of course. Some people are simply heartless. He never loved me. But for his own gain, he would cling to me relentlessly. Sucking me dry, using me up. And once I was of no value, I'd be tossed away like trash. While he'd continue living a glorious life. Naomi and we were both just Harvey's pawns. I glanced at Naomi from the corner of my eye. She was looking at Harvey with an infatuated expression. Then suddenly, her gaze shifted. Harvey's arm was yanked out of its socket, his muffled groan echoing in the warehouse. "I won't deny I had ulterior motives," Naomi gritted out, "but can you say you've been fair to Lilith? You wanted her so badly you ignored her feelings, setting up her fiancé to cheat on her right before their wedding. She had just been kidnapped, and you showed up immediately. You knew it was dangerous, but you didn't stop it. In the end, wasn't it just for your own benefit? What makes your so-called love any nobler than mine? I had suspected it before. I had a tracking device on me, but Lewis wasn't supposed to have access to that information. Yet he found me. Even faster than the police. But right now, I could only remain silent. A bodyguard was inching toward me, step by silent step. Just one more move, and he would have Naomi under control. But that one step was noticed by Harvey. He roared, "Naomi, press the button." Naomi was already standing on a platform. With just one press, she would drop, taking me down with her. Harvey didn't care whether she lived or died. But Naomi had long lost her mind. The second she heard him, she obeyed without hesitation. I gasped involuntarily, swallowing a mouthful of seawater. The wave swallowed me whole. As I plummeted, the last thing I saw was the terror in Lewis's eyes. The air in my lungs was squeezed to a breaking point. I thought I was going to die. My mind began flashing through my life like a film reel. A dilapidated house. The surroundings were chaotic, noisy. A boy in a blue and white striped shirt stood silently in the mess. His presence was clean, but his eyes carried deep sorrow as he watched an old woman lying weakly in bed. My heart softened. I stepped forward and patted the boy on the shoulder. The scene shifted. I was in a hospital. The boy sat on a bench outside the operating room, hands covering his face, a cloud of despair hanging over him. When the doctor finally told him to be strong, he lifted his head. And I realized, this was Louis, in his younger years. So it turns out, we met far earlier than I had ever realized. I had just forgotten. In high school, I had chatted with my best friend about a powerful family in the city taking in an illegitimate son. She had told me how that son had tried to win their approval by personally throwing his biological mother out when she came looking for him. I never thought much of it at the time. Just gossip, in one ear, out the other. But it had been him. Through the blur, I saw a figure dive into the water, swimming toward me. My vision was fading. I couldn't see who it was. But when our lips met, and familiar breath was passed into mine, I knew. It was Louis. When I opened my eyes, the bright white surroundings momentarily blinded me. I squeezed them shut, waiting for the discomfort to pass. I heard the door open, and someone sat down beside my bed. Lilith, you've been asleep for 3 days. Any longer, and you'll turn into a pig. Louis took my hand and pressed it to his cheek. In my heart, I cursed him to the heavens and back. The doctor said that if you didn't wake up by the 4th day, they'd have to shave your head and check for brain damage. With that, Louis sighed dramatically. You love your hair more than me. I don't even stand a chance against it. But don't worry. Even if you go bald, I'll still love you. At his words, my eyes snapped open. I gritted my teeth. You wouldn't dare. Not pretending anymore? The teasing glint in his eyes made me realize I'd been tricked. All the tests had already been done the day I was admitted. I glared at Louis. He chuckled softly. Then gently pulled me into his arms. His embrace was warm, steady. Thank God you're okay. Thank God. There was a lingering fear in his voice, the kind that only comes from almost losing something irreplaceable. As he held me, the anger in my heart faded away. Fine. For the fact that he risked his life diving into the sea to save me, I suppose I could tolerate him. He told me Naomi had died in the ocean. Her body was never found. Harvey was convicted of embezzlement and kidnapping. One wrong step, and he had fallen deep, too deep. They found more crimes linked to him. He'd be in prison for the rest of his life. He and Naomi may have schemed against me, but that doesn't mean I won't settle the score. Once I had mostly recovered, I moved back in with my parents. From then on, Louis's routine of going back and forth between work and home had a new addition. Every day after work, he would wait outside my house. One day, my mom smacked me lightly on the back of the head. It didn't hurt, but I still rubbed the spot out of reflex. I told you not to sit cross-legged. It's bad for your posture. Your dad and I actually think Louis is a decent guy. His methods may be ruthless, but if he weren't, we wouldn't be at ease. Don't mess this up. She sat down beside me, and I took the opportunity to pop a strawberry into her mouth. She didn't know about Louis and Naomi. And I wasn't planning on telling her. The truth is, Louis was in the wrong, but I wasn't exactly innocent either. When I first had my suspicions, I ignored them for my own benefit. That business deal with the overseas client? It only happened because of Louis. I just had to maintain the right stance. I ran my fingers over my stomach and fished a medical report out of my bag. Don't worry. He's not getting away. Hearing that, my mom snatched the paper and examined it closely. Her smile grew brighter and brighter. Then, disregarding all decorum, she yelled out. Oh my God. You're pregnant. She shouted as she rushed out of the house, dragging Louis inside. She must have told him everything on the way because the moment he stepped through the door and saw me, his emotions were impossible to hide. Baby. Hold it. I looked up at him. My mom had already run upstairs to find my dad, leaving just the two of us in the living room. I wasn't planning on forgiving you. But for the baby's sake, I think we should give it a try. Live together like a normal married couple, but without registering the marriage. I could see the gears in Louis's head jam for a second. Why? I'm afraid you'll hit me. I said it calmly. We can sign a prenup, but if we're legally married and you hit me, that's domestic violence. It'd be hard for me to fight back legally. Louis let out a laugh, half amused, half exasperated. What are you even thinking? I don't have a violent bone in my body. You never know. I gave him a skeptical look. If we weren't legally married and he hit me, it would be intentional harm. If it was serious, it would be attempted murder. Our families were evenly matched in power, he wouldn't be able to pressure me with status. So, do you agree or not? Fine. Louis sighed and gave in. Does this mean you'll come home with me now? I nodded. Now that I'd gotten what I wanted, there was no need to push any further. That night, I said goodbye to my parents and left with Louis. I never expected pregnancy to be this miserable. Morning sickness, leg cramps, swelling all over. The worst part was the mood swings. I couldn't control when I wanted to cry or laugh. Louis lost weight from all the stress. My mom later told me that on the day our baby was born, the moment the doctor confirmed we were both safe, Louis burst into tears on the spot. The funniest part? I was perfectly fine postpartum. He was the one who fell into depression. One night, I woke up to find him sitting at the edge of the bed, silently crying. With practiced ease, I poured him some water, handed him his medication, and coaxed him into taking it. During the day, I went with him to see a therapist. For the first 2 months, we were practically glued to each other. I barely even saw our baby. Because every time he did, Louis couldn't stop himself from crying. I found it amusing, but at the same time, my heart softened. Eventually, he named our daughter Irene, giving her my last name instead of his. When I asked him why, he kissed me gently and said, I wasn't the one who suffered. I don't deserve any credit. Now sleep. He pulled me into his arms and switched off the bedside lamp. Tomorrow was a new day. The end.